next one I'm going to ask you about is education. So Colorado's free preschool program was supposed to be available for 50% of eligible families this year. However, when push came to shove, we found out that only about 15% of those families could get into the program. The question is, what is the role of local government in making up that sort of difference or shortfall? And if there is a role, how can you address it?
So, I like your question. Is there a role? I'm not sure there's a role. I got questions about education and school board stuff last fall. And as a council member, I'm not really sure what we could do. We can write letters to the state and in support or in opposition of different measures. What I would like to see us do more often is when a particularly bad piece of legislation is proposed in the state capitol, instead of city council just voting on just sending our displeasure with it to the state capitol, I would like to see us partner with surrounding communities and write joint letters, with everybody from Fort Collins down to Castle Rock or Pueblo, and join up with mayors and city councils. And I think that would be a much more forceful way to address some bad legislation. And so, to the extent that that applies to education, if there's an aspect about it that's not being applied fairly, I would like to see us follow that model I just described, where we team up to try to make a more forceful push on the state capitol. But it's if we can just deviate a little bit to an opinion on the oh, good grief. Scout, I don't know how to answer this. So, anyway,
on the preschool program, I think.
Yeah. There's no long-term benefit to preschool. It fades by about third grade. So really, I guess what it is just state-sponsored daycare, to try to encourage, families to be able to work or what have you. So, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that approach, but I'd like to see a bit more honesty on it. And there's good research that backs up what I'm saying. Children of that age, I have 2 grandchildren now, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And my daughter teaches in public schools. My son-in-law teaches in public schools, both of them in Longmont. And they get it. They understand there's no education value to preschool, that it's really just state-sponsored daycare. And, I would just... To go back to your initial question, I don't know really what the role is of a city council member as it comes to education, other than doing what we can as a city to try to influence our state capitol.
Well, if you see the preschool program as a state-sponsored daycare, and just to use your analogy, would you support the government helping to finance more like childcare options in Longmont?
I would be very cautious of doing that. I would really have to see things laid out, and I'm not sure we're not now. That's a topic that I don't have a huge amount of familiarity with how our city council is addressing it now. I just would really be cautious of government stepping in places like that. You don't want the solution to be worse than the problem, right? And springing into existence perverse incentives and such that might happen when we start dipping our toes into topics like that. So I would be very careful. I'd be very cautious. I would certainly consider it, and I understand the motivations behind it.